Hello everyone, my name is HK92 and welcome to the difficulty review. This review's focus is on the gameplay and how the game challenges the player on the hardest difficulty. I will not go into great detail of each level, just into ones that are really necessary for the better understanding and explanation of the game. Halo Reach hardest difficulty is called Legendary and it has some really weird balance. I do not know why, but I just cannot shake off the feeling that the game is the hardest in the beginning and it's easier and easier towards the end, which I will talk about why and how a bit later, so please do not forget about that. I do want to note that I have never played a Halo game before, making Halo Reach my first Halo game ever, and I had to get used that there is no ADS for every weapon. But anyway, we get into the transport and we are left off to check on an outpost that was attacked. Shortly after that, we found out it was the Covenant that attacked and we get into our first gunfight. The gunfight made me worried, because of the grunts. You see, the grunts are the weakest enemies and they seemed so tanky. Like I needed 2/3 of a clip to kill one of them. I also learned quite fast that taking cover on the time and knowing your window when you can shoot is really important as well. But let's talk about the important part, the guns. I won't comment on every single one, but I will talk about them as we progress through the game. My first 4 weapons were the assault rifle, which I genuinely think is one of the weakest weapons on the legendary difficulty, and for a good reason. First, its range is not the best. It's intended to be used close to medium range, but it honestly sucks on medium range. The second problem, the way you use it, you always put yourself in harm's way. You need to empty a full clip of ammo to even remotely damage or kill something. Therefore, you will always for sure receive damage. Third problem, there is a gun that we can find quite often that is 10 times more useful than the assault rifle. And our second gun on the list, called plasma pistol. It does better at medium range and it removes enemy shield more efficiently and it's more accurate. Its rate of fire is as fast as you can click and it kills grunts in 3 to 4 shots, unlike the assault rifle, which requires half of a clip depending on the range. Our third gun is the Magnum pistol, a gun that I underestimated heavily in the beginning and ended up ignoring it till the late game, where I found out it has a scope and that it packs a punch. And last but not least, the plasma repeater, which is an excellent gun at medium range. Now if you notice, the range of the gun is really important on the legendary difficulty, because you're kind of forced to fight fights from the long range. Close quarter combat is simply not an option, because your enemies will just straight up run to you and kill you because they do more damage and take less. The worst thing of all is that you as a player simply don't have a way to punish an overextended tanky enemy. To put it simply, the enemy is that child in the family that is an obvious troublemaker, but in the eyes of his parents, he can't do any wrong. I sadly learned that the hard way. Let me introduce to you the first place where I was stuck for a while. 15 minutes to be precise. You have to hold the line while Cat is opening the sealed door. You are in a fairly small area and enemies just keep coming from their transport ships. The only way I managed to handle the situation is to hide in the far left of the map, hiding practically like a little girl and letting my indestructible team take all the damage while I was poking out of cover and taking enemies out one by one. Oh yeah, and your team is useless. Like I genuinely don't think they killed anything during the whole game. Oh, except my heart. After entering the facility, the game slows down immensely. For 2 reasons, Jackals and Elites. Jackals and Elites have shields in some form. Now, while Jackals are somewhat manageable because you can burst them down with a plasma pistol, they can do same thing to you, and a lot of time it's a waiting game. Because after they pop my shield and I pop theirs, I need to hide and not lose HP, wait for my shield to come back up and then engage again to finish them off. Not to mention how slow it is when there's 3 or 4 of them. Now, my fear of fighting first elites was big, because if the grunts and jackals are so tanky and strong, how strong will the elites be? The kicker is, they're as tanky as grunts. Just if you remove the shield, they are as same as these little twigs. What were they thinking? The damage elites do is enormous and I'm completely okay with that. They are the elites after all. But what I'm not okay with is how the grunts are as tanky as elites. Like, why? Just because it's the hardest difficulty, it doesn't mean that the weakest enemies need to beat bullet sponges. There is absolutely no need for it. Just make them do a bit more damage and spawn more of them. And you're good to go. So many good games mess that up, and Halo Reach messed it up royally with it. But anyway, my first encounter with the elites went as good as you can imagine. I died a lot. And once again we come to the same discussion. The game simply makes you play like a coward. You have to shoot from the longer distance, kissing the wall in a game where enemies have laser precision aim, making taking cover efficient as diesel car with benzene. It's just not gonna work. Speaking of vehicles, driving the Warthog was one of the most fun things I have done this game. In terms of power against any other vehicle, it sucks. But it's really efficient in dealing with infantry even on the hardest difficulty. But one thing that I like about this game is even though I generally think it's poorly balanced, with each new obstacle you come across you need to approach it differently. And you really need to get creative sometimes. For example, on this part of the game, the play was to ignore the plasma mortar and go straight for the infantry. While yes, I do enjoy when a game does that, I just didn't feel like the developers intended for it to be that way. And my biggest reason why is because of this mission here. The mission needed you to destroy some kind of generator, but they're guarded by two hunters, these two massive tanky dudes, and there's a scripted event once you get to the tower that releases a swarm of drones that are once more tanky as elites but do more damage than them somehow. To make matters worse, you don't have any kind of explosive available to you, except the grenade launcher. But the grenade launcher is most useless thing in the game. Because everything is so goddamn tanky, grenade launcher's strength is equal to that of a water balloon. Its explosion radius is non-existent, and that is the only available explosive weapon against a swarm of drones and two hunters. Do you know how I passed this mission? Like, genuinely try to figure it out. You don't have any kind of weapons to deal with them, and you have to destroy that generator to progress through. Let me tell you, it took me a solid 10 minutes to think of that plan, but I was like, no, that's stupid, it wouldn't work. And after another 10 minutes, I was like, why not? It passed on the first try. You take the car, you ram it through the little gap between the rocks, you rush in before the trigger event of the swarm, and you destroy the generator. Just amazing. Now regarding the early to mid game, that's mostly it. It was mostly hide, shoot from cover and distance, and bunch of tanky enemies, so not so fun. You know what else is not fun? Getting blasted out of the sky 50 times in a row. Once more I was stuck on a level because I didn't want to play like a coward. It's a dogfight mission in space. Your fellow pilots are useless. And I don't understand why they did that to your squad mates. In general, they're useless. Just because it's legendary difficulty does not mean that your friendly units should do no damage. But anyway, the game forces you to play like a coward. You wait behind the base for an enemy spaceship to split from his squad, you take him out and you repeat that for 20 or so times and you win. It's just a stupid mission. Now I have two more things I want to talk about and we will end this video up. First is the two weapon groups, the scoped weapons and the rocket launchers. The melee weapons I'm not gonna talk about because they're pretty useless. They put you in a bad position and you will almost always fail to insta-kill the enemy. The second thing I want to talk about is the endgame. But before that I would recommend you subscribe for more content like this and do leave a comment with your opinion down below. I always love a good discussion. The scoped weapons will be your best friend. DMR, sniper rifles, needle rifle and focus rifle. All of them you will use to the last bullet, because with them the game is 10 times easier, but not easy for sure. So finding them is an instant relief, and firing that last bullet is a trigger for a panic attack. The explosive weapons like the rocket launcher are actually very nicely balanced, from the fire rate to the explosion radius, and the damage. Using them was quite satisfactory. Now remember how I said the game was easier and easier at the end of the game? The biggest challenge in this game comes in form of elites. To be more specific, the elite's shields. Because to kill them, first you need to break their shields and then after that finish them off. So timing your shots, planning your cover, hitting the grenades in their certain places, knowing the strength of those weapons compared to your weapons, calculating if you can lose some health, it's all a part of fighting the elites. And now for some reason, they are almost completely absent in the endgame and the majority of your enemies are brutes with still strong weapons but no shields, except the brute Shiften, but he's a melee unit and you can easily kite him, so there's no problem there, and also the skirmishers, which all do nice amount of damage, but again, no shields. Suddenly, all that risk calculation with the elites makes brutes and skirmishers a walk in the park. Not that I didn't die a couple of times, but it was certainly a confusing experience. Unique one for sure. Before I give my final verdict for the difficulty, I want to say that the Halo Reach was really enjoyable and the story was quite compelling and heartbreaking. The verdict for this game is a 6 out of 10. The main reason how just you are forced to use a couple of weapons to progress through and the amount of bullet sponges and how poorly the game is balanced in general. If you want more, check out the Wolfenstein New Order difficulty review, and if you want to catch me live, check me out on Twitch and join me in my Discord if you want to get notified about my next stream and to get more information on the set stream. Till next time.